One of the interesting things about this book, I think, and one of the most important insights I think you have into the new is that the world you describe is saturated with Christianity. And your experience is that kind of holistic Christian cultural experience. That seems to be a kind of world which the right might want to return to, a kind of idyllic, communitarian idea of a Christian community that offers itself as a kind of alternative to, although I would understand it to be a component of a liberal society in which different communities can coexist with different cultures and different, but nonetheless, what's interesting about the new, and I think it's the most interesting part of your book really, is its deep roots in hostility to Christianity. That Christianity for the new right is in fact not the salvation force. It's not the place you want to go back to. It is the source of most of our liberal problems. I'm going to quote, I don't do this often, but you write so beautifully, and I do recommend reading this book for those reasons, about the radical right and Christianity, because I think it also helps make sense of Trump, whom I regard as a fundamentally pagan force in the world. Quote, the radical right critiques Christianity not for restricting individual autonomy, but for inventing it, not for reinforcing human inequalities, but for dismantling them, not for intolerance of outsiders, but for openness to them. We tend to think of anti-Christian arguments as a feature of the secular left, but the oldest criticisms of Christianity, as we will see, actually come from the radical right, who fear that Christianity severs human roots in history and nature. Now, that's something I think most people haven't fully absorbed. Let's talk about the first person who really encapsulated that, and one of the key figures in the book, Spengler, and then his translator, the Italian Julius Evola, Oswald Spengler. Yes. Tell us Spengler's fundamental diagnosis of what was going wrong, or what had gone wrong in the West.
Yeah, maybe I should first say, Andrew, a little bit about what I think we can learn from the radical, and then I'll turn into discussing Spengler and Evola. It might sound strange to say, but conventional wisdom has it that we have nothing to learn from studying the radical right. The ideas and the thinkers and the volumes of the radical right found on university curriculum, the thinkers and the personalities are rarely, if ever, depicted in art and literature and thought. And it might sound strange to say, but I think we can learn about the radical right something about ourselves, something about who human beings are, what human beings can be, and what human beings always be. And the reason to study the radical right is that the radical right gives forceful expression to aspects of human nature that a lot of us prefer to avoid, to acknowledge. They give expression to human needs that we sometimes ignore and that we sometimes impute. I'll give you some examples before turning to talk about the first of our couple of thinkers. I'm thinking, Andrew, about our need to be loyal to a particular people, our need to bond closely with those who are like us, our need to inherit and transmit a cultural tradition, our need to sacrifice ourselves and to live for an ideal greater than life, our need to celebrate inequalities of achievement, and our need generally for heroism, risk, courage, and valor. And so as we begin to talk about some of the kind of leading personalities and theorists of the radical, what I would invite listeners to do is that this is not an exercise in helping you understand something simply completely foreign and alien to your own experience, but actually the radical right can open you up to something deeply true about yourself and about really all of us, aspects of our humanity that oftentimes remain covered up and unexamined.